Hi, everybody. My name is Jimmy Carroll. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Tech B2B Marketing. I'm here for the Manufacturing Matters podcast. The pleasure of being joined by my colleague, Winn Hardin, and Fabio Perelli from Zebra.
Hello.
Yeah, Fabio, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure to see you. For those who don't know, if you could give us a quick background on Zebra and what you do there, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. Okay. So I'm a product manager, so I work in the product team. I have a team of guys that help me out, and basically we manage all of the hardware development on the machine vision side of things.
Yeah, wow.
And you also probably know my counterpart, Pier Antonio. He also looks at all the software, because today, if you really look at the products, you have a combination always of software and hardware. A piece of hardware on its own, it doesn't really do that much, so you need to have this combination. So Pier Antonio and I kind of co-jointly develop and follow up, development of all the machine vision products there.
That's awesome. Now, Zebra does a lot of other things too, in addition to machine vision.
Correct. So we are part of the machine vision and fixed industrial scanner group. Zebra has, division that does printers, then, the handheld scanners,
Right.
RFID, many other products, but this is, the group I'm in is machine vision centric. So,
well, that's good. You get that cross-pollination between the different product lines makes you stronger as a company in terms of your offerings, for sure.
well, it opens doors. You sell RFID, and maybe you want to inspect your product.
Right.
Well, that's kind of.
I want to ask about that, and I'm going to ask about some specific technologies within the machine vision group. But before I do, I have to ask, how has the transition from Matrox, to Zebra gone, and what's most exciting about it to you?
I mean, the transition is, I would say, pretty much completed. It's always little hicks here and there, but overall, I think everybody did a great job.
Right.
It was a pretty big undertaking that took quite a bit of time, but I think it worked out. We're pretty much a cohesive team at the moment, so it's very, very good.
Fantastic.
One of the things, that got us very excited when we got the news that we're joining Zebra was the fact that we had a very complementary product lines. So we're looking, and I'm talking mostly, again, in the machine vision
Right. Sure.
business unit. They had, a smart camera, yes, and they had industrial scanners, yes. We had a smart camera too, but was at a somewhat different level.
Yes.
So
And the software offerings to go with it.
And the software offering, very different.
Right.
On the other hand, today we have lots of software to offer, which is a great advantage, because if one package doesn't do something, well, we have something else to offer as a complementary product, which is kind of nice.
Right.
Library tools, we got mountains and mountains of functionality there, so I think we're in a pretty good position.
Right. Back in the day, machine vision systems would almost be kind of standalone nodes, but that's not the way it is anymore.
No.
I mean, with IoT, Industry 4.0, and that's not just buzzwords anymore. I mean, we're really seeing that communication across, and not just in the plant now, but as the cloud, which is, and I would love to hear, what you guys think about the cloud. And there's a lot of discussion about whether this is going to be the year of the cloud, right? The PLCs, the other programs going to start having that embedded in, it being more of a requirement. I've always been a bit of a skeptic, right? Because manufacturers want to protect their data at all costs, but so it's a hard, hurdle to overcome a little bit from acceptance. But
yeah, I mean, the cloud has been a lot of talk for, as you said, many years.
Right.
A lot of our customers are still somewhat
nervous about
it, because their data, which is their secret,
yes,
is transiting who knows where. On the other hand, what we have seen are for the deep learning or AI stuff, you bring the cloud on site. So you actually set up a computer farm right on your facility. So you get all the benefit of the big computing, but then you keep everything local. And some other ones, you're able to encrypt data, with a lot of OPC UA is a good example, where everything is encrypted A to Z, for the protocol, hardware, everything is encrypted.
Right.
You should not be as concerned, in my opinion. So yeah, the facilities could be used without, too much worrying about losing or competitors, taking bits and pieces of your secret sauce there.
Sure. Yeah, AI is something I wanted to talk about, right? So Zebra, there's a lot to talk about in the machine vision group, from barcode scanning and machine vision cameras and smart cameras and We could talk about this for hours, but one of the topics I want to ask about is deep learning. So
Sure.
it's a buzzword, I understand, but in the last couple of years, it's really seemed to become a little bit more of a mature technology. And as people start to realize that it's a tool for the machine vision toolbox, it's not a magic tool that's going to solve everything, but there are very useful practical applications for it. And one of those is OCR, right? So your tool is designed around OCR, designed for OCR. How can this make the vision engineer or the systems integrator's job easier?
Yes, a very good question. I mean, overall, the deep learning had been more of a buzzword. A lot of science projects,
Right.
PhD thesis. I think now we're at the moment where we can actually physically use it in practical applications, to solve real problems.
Right.
What he's discussing here is, what we call the deep learning-based OCR tool. It's pretty powerful. I mean, I've been in the industry for 27 odd years.
Right.
Unfortunately,
I feel you,
can
man.
tell my age. On the other hand, I did see a lot of these, issues, reading, text and all this stuff.
Yep.
This deep learning-based OCR tool, it really freaked me out because it works.
Right.
And it works out of the box. There's no complex training, which a lot of the previous versions of OCR tools, you had to get the alphabet out, explicitly say this is an A, a B, a C, and it
Right.
takes forever. And then you get a slab variation, then you have to start over again.
Right.
This thing, you just get an image, with text in it, and it reads it. Irrelevant, of the size, the shape, it was pretty impressive.
And for me, when deploying deep learning, one of the biggest hurdles has been getting the integrators, because the integrators they got burned on a lot of the early, let's not even forget about the neural network stage, but when AI deep learning was first coming out, a lot of people spent a lot of time trying to solve a lot of applications with it, and were, not always as successful as they wanted to do, see that ROI. So I would think that if you're able to put it in use it in a finite space, like in an OCR application, and it's truly, you don't have to, and it can continue to learn and evolve in a continuous learning environment. That seems like it maybe it'll start to create that confidence as well as the familiarity.
Yes, because again, training a network
Yeah.
is not that straightforward.
Right.
So we give you something that's pre-trained
Yep.
with potentially millions of images that we used to get to that point. So obviously, when you show something, it will probably work
Right.
out of the box. So then, therefore, the integrator has very little time to waste trying to get everything to work. He's almost guaranteed that's going to work out of the box without any, crazy, lighting setup, and
Or 3 to 6 months putting a temporary system on the line so you can acquire the data sets.
exactly. So you kind of bypass and jump over all that problematic stage, which is very time consuming,
Yes.
costs money.
Yeah.
To have something that you can solution and show the customer this is how it works, and it works, quite well. I mean, we had an automator. If you remember, we had a demo with a rotating table that had 4 different stations of 4 things that were totally different. One was like metallic, dot pin text. It reads it
Right.
with the same lighting as when you're trying to read something on a curved bottle.
Outstanding.
And there was something, and there was like,
And we're
inverse
talking all
contrast.
reflective surfaces in that
Correct.
particular case, so which is really is complicated.
Embossed. I mean, it really, really, really solutioned the problem without having to create special lighting for each one of these scenarios. Again, I was very impressed with that because typically
Do you
you
have
need
an
to do a
adaptive
lot more
lighting
work.
system on that? I mean, you're building that where, either with combines photometric with standard 2-dimensional, and I think 3-dimensional is something else, but that you wanted to talk about today too. But I mean, does it come with a standard optical head when you're
No, we
providing the
we
solution?
typically, the depending on what product you're going to choose. If you
Yeah.
choose for example, the Iris GTX, you're free to pick, your own lenses and your own lighting. So you can set up, whatever distance you want it to work, whatever lighting conditions, and all that. We also have a line of the what we call the VS cameras, which is on the Zebra, came from the Zebra side.
Right.
Well, some of them have the complete illumination built in. You have liquid lenses for focusing, so a more complete package. It works, maybe not in every condition, but yes, it's easier to
Based on
set up,
throughput,
for
speed,
an
click.
integrator, for example.
Right.
And the algorithm can run in either one of these platforms. So all of a sudden you have the flexibility of choosing very different and variable forms with something that's kind of the software's kind of common, so you know that's going to work. Irrelevant if you pick A or B, because it all comes from the same.
And that's the true power. I mean, and we've rarely seen enough of that in machine vision, where a software can be truly hardware agnostic. You know, I mean, it's usually going to be very much a paired system between the software, because machine vision is difficult, you know, to be successful at. But it's really cool to see software evolving to that, you know, whether it's an IDE with an AI OCR tool built into it, to basically say, you know, you can run on any of our platforms. But, you know, frankly, if you're a Ford or GM and you're married to certain other hardware platforms, our software can still be the powerhouse that makes you successful.
A lot of flexibility, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it speaks to the whole idea of ease of use, right? That's one of the terms that keeps emerging, and it's an obvious one. Everything needs to become easier to use, but do you see that as a main growth driver in the increased adoption of automation? Like, for example, obviously this is a product along with many of your others that can be deployed in warehouses. So in warehouse automation, market intelligence company Interact Analysis predicts modest growth for warehouse automation in 2024, but double-digit growth in the years to follow. Do you see ease of use as one of the main growth drivers there? And what else do you see?
I think ease of use is definitely one of the key things that we are also working on.
Right.
We're trying to get that learning curve of learning a software, understanding how things work, as simple as possible, because that's time wasted, really.
Right.
Because people want to solution things, they want to learn. People know the vision, they understand vision. They don't need to understand, you know, how our package works. They just want to use it to the best, you know, possible way to get a solution up and running. So this is definitely one of the focuses that we have, and pardon me the punt, but the Aurora focus, for which is what Zebra has developed for the smart camera line and for the fixed industrial scanners.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple to use. You can get up and running very quickly, and we're going to evolve this more and more. We're going to continue developing that, and we also have the Aurora Design Assistant, which comes from the Matrox side of the business,
Right.
where if you need, you know, more complex, you know, more evolved type of functionality, you have that as well.
You know, that's really what I wanted to ask, because you can have super powerful algorithms, right? But that's, and you know, quote unquote idiot-proof algorithms. But it takes more, right? It takes, when you talk about ease of use, and I was going to push you on that, Fabio, a little bit, just because everybody says our software is easy to use, but they don't really talk about illustrative examples, all the different little parts. So Design Assistant is a critical element, as well as the powerful algorithms behind it. Are there other aspects in terms of, and I know it's like talking about machine vision and then talking about training. You know, you rarely do that, but in terms of knowledge bases, in terms of, you know, inline help systems, which the Design Assistant provides part of that. But are there other things that Zebra does to truly make that easy to use software? Is it primarily the algorithms in the Design Assistant, or is it more of a whole? Also, with what you've got on your website, you have educational programs.
I mean, we do have a portion of the website that has training, online training,
There
right?
you
So
go.
you can self-train.
Yeah.
We offer physical training courses. We offer online courses. So there's a whole slew of ways to get familiarized, you know, with how to use the software. We're looking at ways how to, you know, leverage some of the ChatGPT type of artificial intelligence to cater to,
We might as well eat our own cooking.
right? So this is something, you know, that we're looking into. You know, there's
Right.
an easy way to, you ask a question in plain English and you get
Yeah.
something,
Takes you
you
right
know,
to the answer that you truly
correct.
need. And, you know, that's one of the real benefits of working with one of the larger companies, especially machine vision, which has traditionally been a lot of little companies with a couple of monsters in there. You know, you have the resources to be able to offer all these systems, so that training isn't an afterthought, so that aftermarket support is there without always having to push back to the integrator.
Yes.
Right, which, you know, integrators, they don't always prioritize those maintenance contracts long term, which is always something over the years that has surprised me. But I guess we can just make more revenue. But I wonder, does your program, does it also have, as far as when you're designing and solving an application, that's obviously super critical. But are there other things that you can do for integrators, such as SPC, alarming after the fact, or when they need? Is there a way does Zebra look at the integrator and say, we want to help you solve your customers' problems today, but we also want to see if we can maybe open up some revenue streams down the road, and while making the system even more bulletproof, right? I mean, just making it easier to maintain and support.
There's a lot of talk about, monitoring your system in the field.
Yep.
Making sure that it's performing as it's supposed to, and then start figuring out, when things are not as sharp as they should be, as we can say,
right.
And then provide, some information, then let the integrator, go in the field, service, do preventive maintenance as opposed to, the thing broke and now the line is down for a week because I didn't find the replacement.
Yeah.
So if you're able to kind of see ahead, when your system does need some type of maintenance work, well then, and not just your inspection system, obviously mostly the machine that's working the rest of the
exactly.
of the application, right? Because the vision most likely is a smaller portion of a larger system.
Yeah, I was always so impressed. The first time I went to Fanuc's campus and saw their ZDT control center, just that ability to predict big failure and to react, and so that you don't have unplanned downtime, because that's the most expensive aspect of.
Yeah, and again, with deep learning, you're able to forecast a lot better some of these modes of failures,
right.
when they could happen, or you can look at trends and understand, okay, this is not going in the right direction, something is going to fail eventually, so then preventive maintenance is the
That's
key
beautiful.
there.
I don't think we talk enough about deep learning's ability with SPC, to really make SPC come alive and provide that intelligence, so that you're not having to sift through reams and reams of data to figure out, and waste your time. You don't have to go to it if there's not a problem.
Correct.
So,
yeah, because in-field service is an expensive
yes,
thing.
proposition for anybody, especially when you have to fly them out. Yeah.
Fabio, one thing I wanted to ask about that I was interested in personally was on the hardware side in 3D, right?
Yes.
So obviously now you have 3D capabilities with the LTs. Am I saying that right?
LTs, yes.
LTs, okay.
Yes.
So obviously you guys have 3D imaging capabilities now. If we use the warehouse as an example, or into packaging, there are clear applications for 3D volumetric measurements of food and packaging, and fill line measurements or whatever else. But are you seeing particular interest from different industries for your 3D sensor in particular, or is it kind of largely in that packaging warehouse?
I mean, we see we're doing a lot of work actually with some of the battery manufacturers for electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
When you assemble all these layers, of anodes, cathodes, and other things, precision is really the key. And if you remember, those Samsung fires in the phones, that was mostly caused by misalignments of things, and things were not assembled properly.
Right.
So there's a lot of inspection actually done in 3D with the LTs for a lot of these car batteries, to make sure that there's nothing that's out of tolerance, and then when you're trying to fit it in, then everything kind of
short, bang, fire.
Right. So it doesn't take much apparently to get issues.
Right.
So we are working heavily in that industry these days with the LTs, and again, 3D is by far one of the largest places where we're developing new functionality, not just on the software side, but also on the product side.
Right.
So let me say this properly, the Aurora imaging library, which is our old Matrox imaging library, we're adding a lot of 3D functionality in it.
Gotcha.
Because obviously, yes, you can get 3D data. Well, you have to do something useful with the data to provide a whole solution.
Right.
So that's happening, and we're also working on other devices to complement the LTs. So the LTs is a profile sensor.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a laser line, so you need motion to create, a 3D profile and a point cloud. We're looking now at a snapshot sensor, so that you can get a 3D image without having that relative motion, because you don't have that all the time.
Right.
In
it's hard
all
to run it
applications.
sweep all the time.
So we're looking at that, and other devices, like time of flight.
Oh.
There's
That'll be
other things,
interesting.
and we see that this is definitely by far one of the highest growth markets. 3D is really taken off. We can solve applications that are just impossible with a 2D vision, no matter what type of lighting, no type. You can't do it.
Right.
Whereas with 3D becomes fairly straightforward.
And you're doing most of it in software, so I mean,
And then you have the software backend, that
Right.
takes in all this data and does the analysis in 3 dimensions. A lot of our software does a lot of the inspection portion. Once you have, the 3D data. Again, automotive is one of the industries where we see a lot of demand. People need to inspect, these connectors,
Right.
for all the cable harnesses. It looks simple between me and you to look at something and say, oh, that looks a little bit different. For 2D vision, is very difficult. You add that third dimension and it becomes obvious.
Right.
And this is, where we have solution a lot of issues, and helped a lot of manufacturers with this kind of technology. Definitely a growth market.
Right.
Definitely.
Large area, 3-dimensional inspection at speed, is an impressive feat. Especially it's just like when we made the transition from monochrome to color, and then went from color to to 2D, now 2D to 3D.
Yes.
Price was always a consideration that kind of slowed growth a little bit, but sounds like you guys are overcoming some of that, which is bringing it to a larger audience.
And that's why we're working on a range of 3D sensors, because depending on the technology that you use, there are different costs involved.
Right.
And not everybody needs, the top of everything. You can get away with, lower cost solutions because your application doesn't need that much, precision or tolerance or whatever, or, that kind of speed. So that's why we're trying to diversify beyond, just the simple laser profiler to give, more options to our customers, our integrators, and,
Well, when you cut the laser out, it also takes away some of the safety issues, some of the environmental issues, concerns that people might have with humans working nearby.
Correct. Correct.
So that's impressive stuff.
Yeah, one sort of trend I guess I've noticed lately is the rise or the increased availability of application-specific systems, these purpose-built systems that incorporate a robot and software, oftentimes AI-based, along with 3D. Often for whatever, bin picking or palletizing, depalletizing, specific applications. I'm just curious, are you seeing LTs being used in this way?
LTs possibly not that much, especially for the bin picking. The snapshot sensor technology is probably a better technology. On the other hand, for picking things off a conveyor, LTs is perfect because you have already the relative motion, so it's perfect. People use that with our product. But again, we're trying to diversify beyond the laser profiler, so that that can offer more and more.
And that actually
more
answers
options.
a question that was in my head, Fabio, was that are you starting to see? One, I was going to see like is Zebra interested in moving into an embedded vision space, but also when we talked about warehousing, we were talking about 3D and warehousing, and we were talking about the battery manufacture and assembly. I was assuming it was going to be in a palletizer or a cartoner or something that would be relevant, but is there any interest in moving into like the autonomous forklift, the AMR markets, other folks?
I think it's probably a natural
Progression.
Progression right in there. I mean, the next thing, people were looking for is just, computer volume on box. I need to understand, how big it is so that I can see, is it going to fit in my truck or I have to go in the next one? That kind of stuff. So you have a scan tunnel set up already, to read all kinds of other information, and why don't you make the measurement at the same time? It's all set up there. Just add an extra instrument. We have the software to do all of that and tie it all together. So this is kind of as I was saying, the excitement that I had, when Zebra and Matrox kind of joined forces, because now we have two worlds that come together into this super solution. So I think it's quite exciting in that respect.
It is, sure. I love the modern warehouses. It's one of my favorite installations to go visit. I was up at Dick's Sporting Goods in Conklin, New York a couple of years ago, and at AutoStore Cube, as well as just full sorting all the way in across 3 different buildings. It's just, to me, it's an amazing. An Amazon warehouse, the example, although a lot of us don't get to walk on that too.
Well, and it's cool too because you get to see all different types of machine vision technologies, and there's so many different applications within the warehouse. So as all these technologies progress and advance, you get to see them in the warehouse, like working together, and it's very cool. And on that note, Fabio, like in the general automation space, not just in the warehouse, but in the general industrial automation manufacturing space, are there any trends or predictions that you see as likely in the next couple of years?
I mean, the robotic is going to continue.
Just continue to grow,
the
expand.
difficulty of getting manpower in general.
Yeah.
We have no choice. We need to get robots to come in. The AMR market, I think, is going to evolve even further.
Yeah.
People don't want to carry things, go run around in a warehouse. Robots are good at that. They can do that without even light. It's perfect.
Right.
So why don't we push more of that? Having a robot running around your Walmart aisle as you're shopping, maybe a bit intimidating.
Service
but for the
bots are
warehousing,
probably-
the back end,
Right.
Yeah.
why not?
I completely agree. And we'd already seen in a philosophical change, 10, 15 years ago, when it was, put the assemblers in one location and bring the parts to them, right? As opposed to having them go get the parts. More efficient operations and everything. If you can combine that with AMRs to then keep their bins full and their part availability and, right next to them, you continue to see more productivity, which will help to drive that interest we're talking about, buy more bots and more cameras. So
Correct. And obviously Zebra had that long-term view because, the acquisition of Fetch was
Exactly.
definitely one of the places where we want to be is, in the factory automation at the AMR level.
right,
And bring all of the vision stuff on the other side as well to add on, right? Because not only you want to be able to read a product, you want to look at a product, see if it's the right piece of equipment that's tagged with such a barcode, and make sure also that the box is not damaged. There's a lot of applications, where machine vision can sit on top of all these other technologies all at once. So you're providing a global solution as opposed to having individual system that each one does its own little bit, and then you have to kind of all tie it together. We can tie it together, provide a
Does
solution.
Aurora already have that connectivity with the Fetch product line?
A little bit, but obviously there's more work to be put in there.
Sure.
One of the things also that the operation mentioned is on the industrial scanning stuff, we are doing a lot of what we call ready solutions. So we're kind of bundling the tools and the software hardware package that an integrator might need to dock door inspection. When goods pallets come in and out.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna give you basically a recipe, sure, like a chef, on how to solution this application so that you don't need to run out and figure out all kinds of things. We do it for you. You just set it up physically and then you maintain it. So then you get your service contract and all the things we discussed before, with the maintenance side of things.
And each ingredient's going to go together to make a really good soup.
And we know exactly how to make the right cake so that you don't make a mix up.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of these ready solutions on the industrial scanning, and we're going to keep on adding more and more to the machine vision portfolio as well, because there's some machine vision applications that are kind of not identical, but they're repeatable.
Right.
With some little tweaks here and there, but you have a basis to start, your solution.
This is primarily focused on the sorting in the warehouse, the packaging area you were talking about before?
Potentially just, even inspection in general.
Okay. Great.
There's a lot of things that get inspected, irrelevant if it's, like a pencil or, or a marker.
Right.
There's similarities there, so you can provide a solution that can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fabio, anything else that we haven't asked that you want to make mention of today, or?
Well, I would keep on looking at us because we have a lot of things in our roadmap. A lot of new things are going to come out probably in the first half of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And talking in terms of these 3D solutions, we are hardly finishing up, these new products that are going to come out. Software, we're going to keep on evolving. I mean, this has been ongoing, for many, many years, but we're going to keep on enhancing. And we are benefiting now from having the ability to pick and choose the best from our libraries, which we have, from the adaptive vision and from the Matrox side. We can pick and choose to then put into the design assistant or in the focus software. So we have a lot of flexibility.
We're starting to see those combined solutions where you're pulling them from the different acquisitions. I mean,
Correct.
that's really speaks more than just this interview in terms about the level of integration that you've been able to bring
Correct.
together.
So all the deep learning OCR, well, that comes from the adaptive vision.
Right.
We have coming out very, very soon a generalized anomaly detection, which is something, that I think is really going to finally jumpstart, the
DL adoption.
Yeah, because we I travel many times, to see customers, and with standard classification tools, yes, they're deep learning based, but you always needed a large number of images of good parts and bad parts.
Yes. Very hard to get.
So everybody tells you, I have lots of good parts. That's my business. I don't make bad parts.
No.
So for me to give you even 100th of the good images,
Yeah. Practically
It's not
impossible,
realistic.
especially when you did for every single defect class.
correct.
You know.
So you need to do the opposite. Anomaly detection. This is the good part, what it should look like. As soon as it deviates, well, there's something wrong. So now you're basically making the network, you're training it with the good images.
It'll be interesting to see how you achieve just the right threshold there, in terms of how, because that's going to be set with every application, but then you need to guide that integrator and that designer through.
Correct. So I think the other place where there's going to be a lot of development is on the training tools.
I agree.
Because you cannot be a PhD person
No.
that knows how to tweak the kernels and all.
No.
That's
And
not.
you-
That's
you
not
need to identify the outliers that are destroying your model.
correct. So
you
you
know.
need to find tools that are very simple to use, and not just to do it once. How to then feed it back and retrain it with outliers, issues that came up, that you
Exactly.
were not forecasting.
Right.
So this is kind of the place, where we also need to do a lot of work.
Cool. I expect the pace of change will probably be accelerating too. I mean, as you guys really start to bring all these companies' technologies together.
And
start to
we have that
benefit.
advantage, right? Because
Right.
we can share technology within
Yes.
the Zebra organization, which is quite powerful.
Yeah. A lot of
So
smart people.
we have advantages there. Yes.
Wonderful.
Well, Fabio, I certainly look forward to seeing what Zebra has to offer in the coming months and this year. And I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. For any questions or comments, or anyone wants to reach out, you can do so at manufacturing-matters.com, and you can learn more about Zebra at zebra.com. Thanks everyone for joining.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Of course,
Thanks, Fabio.
thank you.
Ciao.